Welcome to the AirCon Vault. Here you can find recordings of the live streams from Eric's audio conference. These are made free thanks to our sponsors. A sound effect, Audio Kinetic, Boom Library, Bright Skull, Dolby, Fmod, Game Audio Learning, Game SoundCon, Kilohertz, Motion Picture Sound Editors, Rev Rooms, Sound Cuts, Sound Warriors, and Airwiggles, the online home for audio creatives. We hope you enjoy the video.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Maxance. I'm a principal sound designer at Central Interactive and on Clair Obscur Expedition 33. On this project, I worked on the creature sound design, combat sound skills, and more generally in the sound identity of the game. So I joined the project at very early, first as an intern, when the team was still around 10 people at that time, and I was handling the sound alone. There was not really a full audio team yet, so I started to build many things for the sound design at the audio. Then we have some people start to came to build a full team. So yes, and up to you, Theo.
And yeah, my name is Theo Clavel, and I worked a bit more than a year on the process of the Clair Obscur Expedition 33 as sound designer, and I was principally in charge of creator design, including Nevron voices, enemy attacks, sound effects, and the humanoid post-process like gestual, the SKA, and many more. And today we will show you some process we did on Nevrons for Clair Obscur Expedition 33.
So this is a full audio team we had during the production. So yes, in this presentation, we will first explain what Nevron is in Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Then we will talk about the voice design of the Nevron, how we search for the voice, what kind of source we used, and how we try to create strong sound identity for each creature. After that, we will talk about the common sound between Nevron. The idea is to explain how we create consistency between different creatures, especially when they belong to the same family. We will also talk about Parry system in Expedition. The player has often to react very quickly to the enemy attack, so the sound plays an important role in helping the player to understand the timing and feel the rhythm on the attack, and know when to parry. And finally, we will show a few integration examples in Unreal Engine to quickly explain how these sounds are triggered and organized into the game. So I will introduce what is a Nevron. So Nevron are the creature that the player can fight in Expedition 33. They are not realistic creatures, and they are not always based on animals that we can clearly recognize. But even with that, they often still feel organic and sometimes related to archetype or animals we can recognize. What is important is that a Nevron usually has a very strong identity. This identity comes from several elements. It's silhouettes, animation, and also material that seem to define his body. And very often, we have strong elements like liquid, stone, metal, fire, or some abstract materials like void, for example. And for us, in audio, this material was very useful because they already gave us a lot of information about the creature's sound, should sound. For example, if a creature look like is made of metal, we can add some metallic texture, or we can create a metallic filling with plugin, for example, with a convolution reverb with a metallic sample, or use a comp filter or very short delay under 50 milliseconds to create this feeling of metallic things. The idea was to really start from the visual arts direction and build a coherent sound identity for that. We wanted the sound to feel like it was coming from a creature's body. Yes, from a creature's bodies. Can go next. For the voice design of the Nevron, we did not want to simply create the classic monster voices. So the goal was to was more to find a voice or a type vocalization that really match each creatures. To do that, we mix many different sources. We could use animal sound, Foley, material sound, human voice, or more traditional creature voice element. But the idea was not just to take an interesting sound and put it on a creature. We really had to build a voice that feel like coming from a Nevron's body. There is also a lot of Foley voice. For Foley in the voice design, we mostly use this kind of sound. Sometimes the voice is not really used like a traditional Foley movement. It can be built with friction, sound, crack, liquid movements, breathing impacts, or very textural physical texture. In some case, there is almost no vocal source at all. The whole voice can be made from only Foley and textures. It's really dependent on the creatures. Some Nevrons need a very clear vocalization, almost like animal or monster-like, and others work better with something more abstract, more textural, or closer to the movement or material. Each Nevron has its own voice, so we try to avoid simply reuse the same voice from a creature to another. Even when two Nevrons belong to the same family, we try to keep difference in tone and texture, or in the way the voice reacts to the animation. The goal was for each creature to have its own personality while it's feeling coherent with the world of the game. Nevron are often connected to the same theme or family. A family of Nevron can share the same type of material, the same design logic. For sound, it was very important to reflect that idea. When several creatures belong to the same family, we can use a common texture, similar vocal sound, and recurring sound elements. And it helps the player to feel this creature come from the same world and the same environment or the same ecosystem. But at the same time, we did not want the creatures sound the same, so the goal was to find a balance between consistency and unique identity. We could share some sound layer between several neurons, but transform them and process them differently to combine them with another element. For example, two neurons from the same family can share some common texture in their voice or similar type of material in their movement, but they can feel like more heavier or aggressive or more lower, while the other can feel faster, more nervous, or more weak. So it's a bit like creating a shared sound language. Nevron from the same family can have similarities, but each one still needs in own voice and own presence. And it's own way of exiting in the game.
Yeah, maybe I can take the next. So we'll talk about the Nevron voice design. The voice design of the Nevron was the most important part of creature. It's probably the thing we spend the most time on because the voice is often what gives each neuron its unique identity. A lot of neurons mainly attack in close combat, so they do not have always a magic attack or projectile with a very clear sound signature. Because of that, the voice becomes very central. It helps define the creature personality, its energy, its material, its size, and also when a neurons get pain or his attack or he dash or jump. We did not want simply create classic monster scream. The idea was that each voice should feel connected to the neuron's body, its material, the way he moves, and the world in the game. So, for example, here we have the Petank example. So, as you can see, there are no voice, no mouth of the neuron. It's like just a ball of metal. So, how we can create a unique voices for this creature? It's very simple. Um, in Clair Obscur, Petank is a mob like Goblin in Diablo 4, if you know. It's like a very cute creature that run away the player, and the player need to catch him to have some very good rewards. So we take the part to have something like a gold creature that have a lot of stuff on him, and in his voice it's a very cute things with a goblin grunt, and for the more specific and uniqueness voices, I added a kazoo and a cute creature sound. And then we just layering all the thing to have something like this. And then with all of this layer, we can create attack, pain, idle, jump, dash, and all the sound we need.
So yes, for the major process we use during all the sound design creation, the idea was to create a unique voice for each neuron. So we use a very important approach. The idea was to imagine the kind of resonating body like a belly or a chest. And inside of this body, we could put different sounds like material, foley, animal sound, texture, or even voice. Then we imagined that in this body, he had a throat, like an opening or a hole, where the sound could come out. And we could modulate this throat to transform this sound into something closer to a vocalization. So the goal was to use an audio follower, as you can see. The audio follower will modulate the volume of different parameters. For example, it can modulate the mix of convolver, the Forman filter, just some classic filter, or a phaser and whatever. And this modulation will create the feeling of voice and the vocalization. So, for example, if you put just some wood sound with all the formants and all the modulation, it could feel like a vocalization. So this is what we use a lot to keep yes, to have the same to have a neuron with a clearly direction, like a wood monster or a sea shell kind of monster, and to use only material to create this vocalization. I go next.
Next. So here I will take as example the Lampmaster. It's the last boss of the first act of the game. And for this one, so to beginning, we try to find as many references as possible we can find based on concept art and 3D artist. So we will take everything we can, like textures, clauses, size, where the biome he live, what lore he have, and that's it. So after that, as said in Maxance, we used a lot of audio follower plugin from Kilohertz, and that helped us shaped a waveform with a texture as a base. Like we could create like a very short a liquid a sound that can blend very easily with the voice to create a unique voice. So, for example, here is the Lampmaster sessions. After that, we can open the Lampmaster session, and I will show you this. But there is just a screen that shows a snap pip with an audio follower and everything we modulate. So distortion, compression, frequency shifter to have some variation in the pitch, some filter, and convolution reverb. That's very important to give this uh, this throat sound very specific, like a very little box. And for the Lampmaster, I create a first texture that we call texture B. And as you can see on the concept, this is like a ball of flesh and arm and disgusting and lantern, metal, magic. So it's a very unique design. There is nothing that look like this. So I create 4 different texture, like click, throat, and I really create 4 different texture to have this as layer. And with this layer, it's easily to create a different variation for attack, idle, pain. So for example, here my 4 layer is very different. And I will take, I spent a lot of time create this texture. So it's easily after to have different iterations of the sound. And that help us to have a very good art direction in sound. And then for attack, for example, I will layer all my texture. For pain, I will take only 2, for example, and I will short this sound with a high pitch to very have this pain impact. And for the idle, it's a very easy. The idle sound is like a monster is in his environment, and he's like walking, hitting flowers. I don't know. It's like just the monster living alone. So for create the idle is very simple. I can take all my texture alone and make different lengths of the sound, and that's very easy to have to create iteration with the same art direction for the sound. It is very cool. So for example, here we can hear a different layer. So each layer have a sound. This one is very more like Foley. We can hear metal and rock. This is like very the character of the monster. It's a very voice sharp, and all of this layer is integrated in the Unreal Engine. So that's very cool to put some layer in the world to bring life the biome where the monster is living. And then when I create an attack, for example, that's a very important sound because it will be helping the player to parry. So I just layer all my texture together. And this is how I create a unique voice design for monsters. And then
once we found the main voice of the Nevron, the idea was to create a consistency with the other Nevron from the same family. So to do that, once the first things we keep it in common was for the things we keep in common was often the processing. It could change a little depending on the creatures, but we try to keep a common base similar to filter and modulation and the same convolution reverb often. We use the convolution reverb to create some common resonance. So for example, for the Go Blue Flying Waters monsters, we use a convolution come from glasses. So it had some kind of seashell feeling resonance, and we add it on all the monster to create something in common. And after this, you can go next slide. Once we had this common processing base, we could also share some texture layer between different neurons from the same family. So each monster could have some specific layers made only for that creatures, but also some shared layer with the others. These common layers help us to create a global consistency between all the creatures and of the same family. For example, we could keep the same material texture, the same breathing layer, the same kind of water sound. And then we could transform it in differently depending on the creature. We can make it lower or more high pitch texture, depending on the size of the monster. So, for example, for the cruller, the first one, we had some monster, classic monster voice, some seashell elements, and some water things. And for the brûleur, we keep the water and seashell texture, and we add more, instead of the creature voice classic monster, we use whale voice. So it keeps something in common, but we have some difference between all creatures, and it's has some consistency to everything.
So this is the first voice from the cooler, and that really helps us to identify which monster is screaming in the world. This one is a brûleur. So we can hear it's very similar but also different, and that's this point we wanted in the Clair Obscur. We wanted something in common and different to identify each monsters. And that's it. So here is a little a bonus that we made with Alexandre de Mester, and that's a little recording we made for the Benisseur. It's a monster with a metal couple on his head. That was very fun to do. So here we try to find something very cool to have a unique voices. We wanted a water and metal blending, and here is the result. that's it. So now we'll talk about the Nevron's common sounds, because as we saw, what is in common for each, what is unique for each Nevron is the voice. So what can have in common? This is not the voices, because we can't use the voices to have this in common. So what we have in common for all the creature of Clair Obscur is the footstep, because it's very each neurons have the same footstep but with the different sizes. So we took the base of the body to have a different archetype of monsters, from very small to very large. We use almost the same footstep, but with a layer, with more layer or less layer. Also, we have the same battle displacement for each creature. So jump, land, or just a dash, but it is the same animation for all creature. So this is in common. We can use that to have sound in common for neurons, and all of the weapons by size also. Why is important to have something in common in Clair Obscur for the sound is like, if we can gain time to create unique sound for each creature, we can spend less time in what is not very important, like a footstep, jump, and that's all. So we really try to have the most common sound we can have, to have time to make a unique voice for each neurons. So we designed footstep by size, as I said, extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, jump, land, dash, also by size, sword and sword whoosh and neutral whooshes, and generic hit like hit ground, hit shoulder for different texture, metal, rock, etc. So here it's an example of a footstep. So we have from small to extra large, and this is we can see we have two of the same family, the first one and the third one, and the second and the fourth is the same family. So we have two family different with different size, but the footstep is the same almost for each creature. We just have layer, more layer or less layer. And we have this for the very essential texture we need. So wood, metal, snow, and water, or puddle, I don't know. That's it. We also did a jump by size. So here's, for example, a medium jump, and here is a heavy jump. Here we also did for the weapon and the hit grounds. So for example here a medium one or a large one maybe. And this is for the sword and also for impact. Here is two large hit grounds, one neutral and one metal.
So now we'll talk about how the sound can help to parry a Nevron. So we can go next slide. So at the beginning of the production, we made fairly classic whooshes for the enemy attack. They were mainly there to support the movements, but at some point, the creative director, Guillaume, asked us if we could use some sound to help the player to parry more clearly. So the idea was to see if sound design could give better information about the timing of the attack. So at first we threw about something more extra-diegetic, almost like an alarm or separate signal. But we were not very fan to this idea. So we did not want to add a beep sound or something too disconnected from the attack. So we tried to find a solution, and it was more integrated into the sound attack itself. This is how we start using what we call the sweep sound. So the sweep sound is a very short and very high-pitched sound with a lot of energy in the high frequency. So yes, you can perhaps show us, Theo. And this is placed directly inside the whoosh attack, and the idea is to alert the player at the important moment without feeling like a UI sound. So then we use it in all whooshes. This sweep sound is in all whooshes. And the goal was for the player to feel the right timing through the sound. So to test it, I practice a lot by trying to parry without looking at all the screen. And the idea was really to check if the sound alone could give enough information to understand the timing of the attack. But the problem was this sweep was every whoosh was placed by hand and by feeling in the sequence. So even if the ID worked, we did not always have the perfectly way to place it in the same timing. So it's not totally consistency in the game. Because that was my feeling. So if I was tired, I think I could have some more delay between the sweep and the hits. So that depends. But later in the production, we found the second technique more consistent, the glissando whoosh. So you can go next. The glissando whoosh came later in the production. At that time, I had to remake the whooshes for the attack of the glissando because he had a very difficult readable attack. So it needs a better sound feedbacks to help the player to understand the timing. And the idea was to create a whoosh with a very specific, really precise sound shape. It needs a very soft attack at the beginning, a very short attack, then a stronger and clearly middle parts with the whooshes that you can see in the screen, and a very tiny hand release in volume, so it could leave space for the damage hits. Because in Expedition, in the sequence, we know exactly when the damage key will happen. So this whooshes as designed with a very controlled dynamic, and it cuts through the mix, and it is strong enough to clearly heard it, but it does not mask the final hits damage. So instead it prepares the hits and leave the room for it. So inside this whoosh, we also keep the ID to the sweep sound. We also add it in the whoosh. So there is a high pitch. The high pitch sound is still here. And the other big advantage of the glissando whoosh was the integration. To integrate it, we first use an empty wave, the second wave you can see in the sequence, and we have only one kick in it. And we can adjust exactly and align the damage key and the hits moment with the reference wave. Then we replace the empty wave and the wave with a kick. We replace it with a glissando whoosh. And because all glissando whoosh were built with the same timing logic, we were much more consistent, and it makes the system more reliable and easier to reproduce on different attacks. The problem is that we found this technique quite late in the production, few months before the release, so we did not have enough time to replace all the whooshes in the game with this new system. That's why at the final game, both systems coexist. Some monsters use the old, the handmade timing whooshes, and some use the glissando whoosh, so depends of the monster. You can go next slide, and after we had some generic slow motion whooshes. I create few.
Wait, I don't
Yes.
play these sounds. The glitch and the whoosh, sorry.
So it's very
That's it.
small attack, small release. And after
then
we have generic slow motion whoosh, you can play it. It's a kind of paint, wobble.
This is really, yeah. This is really for the bosses at the first time when they jump, for example, and for the powerful and heavy impact.
I thought that was for slow motion, but at the end, Guillaume, during the production, he had a
Yeah,
lot
everything.
of sound when he thinks that was needed to have a more clearly timing. He can add it by himself directly in the sequence. And after this, we had the gradient attack. You can play it.
So this is just a start, a loop, and a stop, and this is integrated in the blueprint because all Nevron at Act 2 and 3 can make a gradient attack. So we wanted to have something very generic and integrate in the gameplay. So it's very easy to just switch the sound and not go on all the monsters to switch this. The loop and the stop. Very simple. There are not a lot of iterations because this is a very, very important gameplay sound that need to help the player to parry. So this is a kind of sound that the player learning by playing the game. And also we have the jump sound. So each sound of the parry system is different because each input on the controller is different. So you really need a very identity sound for each gameplay mechanics. So the player know what he need to do, like jumping, parrying, or gradient parrying.
And one last thing about parrying, we didn't talk about other type of attack. We talk about whooshes and jump and the gradient, but to other type of attack, there is no whooshes. We always try to find a pattern, a reading in the skills to have a point to know where you have to parry. So we try always, even if it didn't match with the image or the VFX
The
or whatever.
animation, yeah.
Yes, we always try to find some points, some things redeem an impact before the attack to help you to parry.
Yeah. So very quickly we can check how we integrate neurons in the engine. So here is a basic sequence that will read an animations on the character. So for example, a neurons will play a sequence when he's attacking. So it's a very simple. We put a BP audio character beta manager, for example, and this contain a 3D sound point on end, head, body, or foot or feet, and then we can place a key. Here you can see some key on the green line, and we can say at this time you play this sound, at this time you play this sound. So we put by the end every raves on neurons, like every voices, every follies, every SFX is placed by end at 95%. And also, this is if we will to be very careful with these sequences because we play a meta sound in the key, and there is a lot of slow motion in the game, and this is impacting the rhythm of the attack. So, for example, if I play a key at a certain time, and then we have a slow motion, the sound can be unsynced with the animations. So this is a very careful thing to do. And when we create monsters and we integrate his sound on all the attacks, we need to play the game and play the battle and each attack to very test the rhythm and if everything is okay to parry even with the closed eyes. So to conclude this presentation, we can say that we tried to design unique voices for each creature. That was very important for the art direction of the sound. And for that, we classify at the beginning what is common and what is not. So we create some common whoosh, some footstep, we have a lot of sound that in common for each neurons. They are just adjusting by size, like extra small, small, medium, large, extra large. And with this, we can highlight the uniqueness of each creature. So the voice is each neuron have a unique voice, and then Foley is not necessarily for each one. And SFX is we try to have SFX more common possible. So by this, we save time by focusing on what is the most important, and have is the most in common. So everything by size. So we can focus a lot on design and be creative. And so we set prioritize to focus on design. This is just what I said. And that's it. If you want to see more about a Reaper session of some neurons, I did 3 videos that on YouTube. You can type Expedition 33 sound design breakdown, and I show the Runwar Curator Reaper sessions, the Lampmaster, and a Siren Axon. So thank you for listening. And if you have time, we can open Reaper to check the design. Or if you have question, we can respond to your questions. And thank you for listening. That was really cool.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, guys. This was a brilliant talk. Really enjoyed it. We have some extra time, so absolutely we can dive into the Reaper session if you want to.
Yeah, of course. It will be a pleasure.
I'm gonna put down any questions onto a sheet, and then yeah, basically I'll just ask them as well.
Just
Yes.
do you see the Reaper?
Yeah, I can see
Yes.
Reaper.
I think you can hear too.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is just a little breakdown of 2 Reaper sessions that bring life creature on Expedition 33. So here, this is Petank we saw before. And what I made first is create a note track. So we have, I know when I open a session that here we have the voice, here we have the SFX, and here we have Foley, and on each group. And we can see, we can zoom in this to have here the voice when a spot. And this is just basically a layering for all the neurons. It's we create unique voice by layering and a lot of Snappeep plugins with other followers, and this helped us to create a very good consistency on all the monsters and all the voices. So we can hear what sounds like a Petank. So this is very goblin small grunt with magical stuff. And for that, I take a dog recording and creature recording. Here we have a Peruvian guinea pig also with some pitch and some process, EQ, etc. So we have the follower that moves the convolver, delay, chorus, and more effects. And I just making by hand my design. And I have, as I said, this one is a very simple creature, so we don't have a lot of texture. This is just one texture creature. And for this one, I wanted something very goofy because it's a very fun neurons. So I put a kazoo in the voice. Here is a kazoo, and I put a vibrato on this. Oh, I put a vibrato on this to have something like very funny, and that's it. The most important design is that I take the kazoo and I will follow what the kazoo make with another sound. And I will make by hand with the pitching, with pitch. I will make by hand to have a very consistency voice and have a very unique and feel like the voice coming from the neurons. We have another example here, just the kazoo. And here I take something like create a small doggy to have to create on the kazoo. And this is principally the release. So first of all, I imagine that the Nevron is opening his fictional mouse. So I have a very short sound at the beginning. So it sounds like this. And that's it for Petank. And then I play the Goblin aspect of Diablo 4. I play this in the Follies. So the Follies is a very simple gold and coin sound. So when the player hits Petank, he knows that he contains a good stuff and he needs to kill him. Visually, we can see a coin or on him, but we imagine that he have a good stuff on him because when the player kills the Petank, he have a very good rewards. And then with the voice, it's a very goofy creature, very fun and very cool voice design. And so we have what?
Just for the Petank, the things you showed at one moment, we tried when we did sound design to not align every layers like one into another like this, but we tried to move to have some starts and ending sound. So yes, like this, we often try to find some sound to the starter, some sound to the end, and to have something like a whole sentence with different layers, and we don't try to put every layers in the same time to create something more alive and to create some more complicated voice and more human, not human voice, but something like we can see in real life. The second thing is we also play a lot with pitch to create some emotion.
Yes.
Like pain, or when you have some idle and you have just a monster like walking without seeing the player and just have something like more looking for a player. So with some high pitch like this. For the pain, we have some strong down pitch, and so we try to find sometimes some tonal sound because it's more easy to make some pitch and create some emotion with it.
Yeah. And then I can show the Lampmaster session. That's a very more huge session than Petank because it's a boss of the end of the first act. So this is the same process. We have here the voices, here the follies and sword, and here the SFX. And this is just a construct like this. First of all, I always have a concept art with me in the sessions or on the desktop. And then I will just find some texture I like. So I will layer everything I can find on the library or recording. That depends on what you want to do. Okay, so I make research, and then I will create what I said at the beginning, so 4 textures. So I have here one, here the second, here the third, and here the fourth. And with that, I will create a different iteration of voices, and I will don't use all the layer at the same time, but sometimes I will use all the layer, for example, for the attack. So when the monster attack, he have all his range of voices, and when he make voices not very important, we will take what we want on all the texture I created. So the principal texture of the Lampmaster is this one. And this is, like we said before, it's always another follower that will drive some effects. We can hear without process and with process. This is very a low mid sound, very unique. And this is the base for all the voice of the creature. And then I will add some texture, some click sound, some throat, and I will layer everything I can to create the more iteration I need. Sometimes I have just this one alone or this one alone, and that's it. And I create regions on Reaper, and that's a very efficient way to make attack sound, because in Clair Obscur this is always the same timing when a Nevron attack. This is the same timing in the sequence as we saw before. So I just put the video on Reaper, and then I create all my iteration with that. Here we have a different rhythm for the same attack, so I just put all the video of each attack with a different rhythm, and I just switch sometimes. And if I need to readjust the timing, I just need to readjust in the waves, re-export, and that's it. I do that. That's it for the sessions. I don't know if we have time to dig more, but this is the very base of all neurons in the game. We have a session like this for each monsters, and that's it.
Absolutely
And perhaps
fantastic.
something with the voice, we often, for the SFX and the voice, because it's a turn-based, we have often like a long attack for each characters. So we work in 2 different ways. Sometimes for the voice, we can create some very specific voice for an attack. So we will split them to part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5, for example. So we can have some precise movements, like a release sound, and something very unique, with sometimes 1 or 2 or 3 maximum iterations. So you have part 1 with 3 iterations, part 2, 3 iterations. So you have always a unique voice to each attack. This is the first time when we have a lot of time, and when we don't have time, we just create some, often like pre-attack, attack short, attack long, and release, and we just adjust them when found in the sequence, depending on the time we had. And I saw someone ask how long we had to make one monsters. So it depends, because sometimes we will create some texture for 1 week, but we know this texture we will use it in every monster of this family. For example, in Spring Meadow, with a shiny kind of sound. And except for this, I think we can spend something like 5 days to one monsters, and we can spend the same time for SFX, and for example, like 2 days for voice design, 2 days for SFX, and 1 day to integrate everything and have some adjustment. This is a
Yeah.
regular time we spend.
But by the way, for example, with my session I just showed, Petank was made like 1-2 years, and the Lampmaster is like 1
1-2
to 2
years?
weeks. Day, sorry.
Days.
Petank was made in 1-2 days, and the Lampmaster was more like 1 to 2 weeks, with a readjustment of the rhythm and all the suffix we need to do because it's a boss.
Very
That's it.
impressive. That is a short turnaround still for like that many assets and everything. That's super impressive, especially like how well it turned out and everything. It sounds so cool, and really
Thanks.
awesome to see the Reaper session. It's brilliant to hear all the different textures and everything isolated, and how you approached all of this. Fantastic.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you so much, you two. We are pretty much out of time now. We have to unfortunately get to the next talk now, as I need to hop over to host that. However, there were a bunch of questions, and I'm going to post in the chat now. If you want to get your questions answered, please post them in the Hangout chat on Airwiggles, and just tag Theo and Maxance, and then they will be able to answer your questions. Thank you so much to the both of you. This has been awesome, and yeah, such an honor to have you on. Really, really cool. And we appreciate all of you as well for tuning in and for being active in the chat and spreading the good vibes. Thank you so much. We have another creature talk coming up, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. You can check that out as well. I've just posted the link in the chat, so definitely don't miss that. And I will all see you in the next talk. Thank you for tuning in, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Airwiggles. Bye bye.